What's up, everybody? It's Izzy, and in this video I want to address what I consider to be a misunderstanding and a misapplication of RPE. And namely, what I'm talking about here is when people try to make RPE 100% about bar speed. Now, there are some instances where this is appropriate, but for many of your training lifts, you should not be basing RPE solely on bar speed. First of all, if RPE was based solely on bar speed, we would just use a bar speed measuring device instead and completely replace RPE. However, RPE is useful in conjunction with, or even instead of, a bar speed measuring device precisely because it contains subjective data, if you will, that helps you guide weight selection choices. So what I mean by this is that you should not completely ignore your feelings. You should not completely ignore the sensations that you are getting underneath the bar. So let me give you an example of this. One example would be, say, on the bench press. Let's say you have a rep that is extremely fast, but your ass came off of the bench a little bit. Now, if you were to rate this solely on bar speed, it might be, you know, like an at 8 or whatever, right? Because it was let's say the last rep was pretty quick. However, if your ass came off of the bench, that's actually a failed rep by the standards of powerlifting, right? By the competition standards. And so this is something that I see actually quite often, is that many people are limited on a particular lift, not by absolute bar speed, but by form breakdown near maximal weights. So you can think of examples on this for every single lift. One example on the squat might be somebody who progressively squats higher as the weights get heavier. So they get, you know, psyched out or whatever the reason is. They just have a habit of cutting reps higher as the weight gets heavier. So in this instance, even though the last rep might have been quick, if you feel yourself under the bar start to trend towards that tendency of cutting your reps high, your RPE should be different than what you would base it solely on bar speed, because your RPE is based around the hardest aspect of the lift. It's not based around solely how fast the bar moves. So in my case, to give you yet another example, my maximal effort squats are not limited by bar speed. They're limited generally by my knee cave. So when I get heavy enough, I will get enough knee cave that I can't recover. Similar to, say, somebody who rounds their back on, you know, conventional deadlift and then has lockout issues. Generally speaking, it's not actually, you know, their lockout that's the issue. It's the fact that as the weights get heavier and heavier, they progressively lose more and more of their good starting position. So again, this is an important distinction to make, because I think there are way too many people that treat RPE solely as a proxy for bar speed when it is intended to be used for more than that. It is intended to carry in it subjective, again, data, if you will, that helps you guide weight selection beyond just how quickly the bar moves. So if you're a person who on the bench press has a habit of, you know, let's say progressively using quicker and quicker pauses as the weight gets heavier, or even more commonly, you're a person who lifts their ass off of the bench as the weight gets heavier, your RPE should not be based on bar speed, but it should be based on that feeling that you have of whether or not you would lift your ass on the next rep. So how many reps that you have left in the tank with your ass on the bench. Because for some people, they fail a rep on the bench press by lifting their ass well before they ever fail it due to the bar not moving quickly enough. And you can do similar things in a variety of circumstances. So let's say that somebody is trying to do strict RDLs. You might rate the RPE based on how many more reps you could do with a perfectly flat back, and you would not rate it based solely on how quickly the bar was moving. So I mean, that's really the thrust of the point that I wanted to make here. And I think you guys, if you stop for a second, you can think of a lot of different examples that I didn't touch on in this quick little video of where it would be more appropriate to use a quote-unquote technical RPE, where you're judging the RPE based on the hardest part of the lift and how many more reps you could do with the intended form or without the particular breakdown that you're looking for, rather than basing it solely on bar speed. And you know, one last classic example that I'll give you is, say, somebody who's trying to switch to a flat back deadlift. They would actually consider it a failed deadlift, so an at 11, if you will, or even, let's say an at 10 for them would be if they thought they couldn't do another rep with a flat back. Even if the bar speed was pretty good, if they felt that their back was going to round on the next rep, that would be RPE 10 for this person who is trying to convert to a flat back deadlift. So I know I'm repeating myself here, but this is an important distinction in my mind that I think will improve training quality for a lot of you out there that use the RPE system. And that is, you should be basing your RPE not solely on bar speed, but you should be basing it on the hardest part of the lift and the likelihood, well, not the likelihood, but how many more reps you have left in the tank while still performing the lift to the standard that you're hoping to perform. So if you have a 2 count pause squat, if you cut the last rep short with only a 1 second pause, you might call that at 10 because you were no longer able to sustain the hardest part of the lift, which was holding that 2 count pause. You would not base it solely on your bar speed and call it an at 8 set when you had to cheat and pause for a lesser amount of time in order to get the rep to be that fast in the first place. So anyways, I hope this has been helpful for those of you who do use RPE. Remember to base your RPE on the hardest aspect of the lift rather than solely basing it on bar speed, and I think you'll find that you improve your training quality. You have a lower chance to underperform at meets because you'll be more often training to the competition standard, and perhaps just as important, you'll be able to project the weights that you'll be able to hit at meets a lot more accurately when formulating your meet card and formulating your meet plan, because you won't be basing things on estimated 1 rep maxes that were performed under progressively worse conditions, or just on things that were solely based on bar speed despite the fact that you were not upholding the competition standard. Anyways, that's all I have to say on this one. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, good luck with your training and have a nice day. Peace.